Hard Truths is all about Marianne Jean-Baptiste, and she makes the most of pretty much every moment.
Look at you! Fix your face! You're dealing with the public, handling people's food.
Stop! Please.
Oh, and you can pipe down and all standing there like an ostrich.
Hard Truths is the latest film from legendary director Mike Leigh, and although he might not be a household name outside of the film community, he's the person behind very critically acclaimed films like Naked, Life is Sweet, and Secrets and Lies, the latter of which ended up with 5 Academy Award nominations back in '97, including a nomination for Marianne Jean-Baptiste in the supporting actress category. So now she's back almost 30 years later to team up with Leigh again. And while Baptiste is really brilliant here, Hard Truths on the whole doesn't ever quite reach the same level of emotional resonance as some of Leigh's previous work. The film follows Baptiste as Pansy, who is a very angry yet sad and broken woman as she goes through the minutia of her daily life. She gets upset at her son for leaving food in his room. She argues with couples in furniture stores. She loses her patience with clerks at the supermarket. Really, she finds fault in everyone she interacts with, but that includes herself. This is very much a Mike Leigh film. He's known for his natural and sometimes literally improv dialogue. His work is generally quite human and grounded, and that's much of what we have here. Hard Truths is super understated in its visual style and its color palette. It's essentially shot to mimic real life. There's no noticeable color grade. The movement from shot to shot and scene to scene is calm and thoughtful. It's quite subtle work compared to many other directors known for a more bold visual style. Think Wes Anderson, obviously, or Guillermo del Toro, or even someone like Claire Denis. But, of course, this simple and naturalistic approach is in itself a directorial style. And honestly, I think it's a pretty great example of how strong, effective filmmaking isn't just about being in your face with the style or the best equipment and lighting. At its heart, it's about story. And Leigh is always able to share real human stories. And this is going to be a little bit of a tangent, but I was recently watching the show The Madness on Netflix with Coleman Domingo that I think connects to this kind of form versus function debate. It was gorgeously shot, but it so clearly emphasizes style over story, and it reaches a point where you're just questioning why every single character is in a home that's perfectly lit almost exclusively through light coming through the window, through a diffuse haze with a practical lamp or two in the background. At no point in the series does anyone ever feel like turning on a light switch to properly light a room to talk to another human like you would in real life. But I digress. In Hard Truths, we start quite slowly, and style isn't the first item on the checklist. It takes 4 minutes roughly for our first line of dialogue. We're very quietly introduced to a few characters as they go about their day. We have a slow pan at the corner of the street until Pansy's house is centered in frame, which is a shot that we come back to near the end of the film as well. When we do finally see Baptiste's character in bed, her face is split almost perfectly between shadow and light. Definitely the most overt symbol of these two sides of her emotional and psychological state that we get in the movie. When we finally hear her speak, we get a sense of just tremendous anger, and anger that is a lot deeper and more ingrained than most characters we see on screen. Even when she's driving, I love the details of how we can see that she's just gripping the steering wheel so tightly she cannot let go. We do have occasional moments of levity. Normally from very snarky remarks from Pansy. My favorite is when she's talking about baby clothing and she says something along the lines of, "What does a baby have pockets for?" Outside of that, though, we're mostly just seeing a very angry human being. To be honest, for the whole first act and moving into the second act, we don't see a ton of emotional depth from Baptiste, which sort of had me questioning all of the buzz around her performance. Once we move deeper into the film, though, this sort of facade starts crumbling down. And that's when Baptiste really shines. I won't spoil anything, but I will say that the emotional beats with Pansy and her sister are probably the most impactful in Hard Truths. And while Baptiste is given pretty much all of the more showy acting opportunities, there is some subtle and meaningful work being done by our supporting characters. Obviously, the relationship with her sister is very important, but what stood out to me was Tuwaine Barrett as Pansy's son, who at first glance feels just like an apathetic teenager, but as we continue to spend more time with him and his performance, we get some more insight into his psyche, with him barely saying a word through the entire film. So he did really bring us some subtlety that was effective. The film ends without a clear resolution, which is probably not entirely surprising for a Leigh picture, but it might leave folks kind of with this feeling that something is incomplete. And the film is a bit frustrating at times. We want characters to act in a certain way, but if you are a person who enjoys work from Leigh or just films that are a little bit simpler and about these interpersonal relationships, then Hard Truths is definitely still worth a watch. Thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this one. Like, comment, subscribe, all those things. Super appreciated. Means a lot. Thank you so much. Watch the next one. Cheers.